Violence and chaos in Haiti. What's next for the Caribbean nation as the crisis there rages on? Hello, I'm Anand Naidu, and this is The Heat. Haiti continues to spiral out of control as violence and a humanitarian disaster pose a massive threat to the country. The small Caribbean nation, home to over 11 million people, has been gripped in crisis since its president was assassinated in July 2021. Now armed gangs control large parts of the capital, Port-au-Prince, as police try to restore order. According to the United Nations, more than 5,600 people were killed by gang violence last year, and more than 1 million Haitians have fled their homes. Meanwhile, the political situation is also unstable, and a new president of Haiti's Transitional Presidential Council was recently sworn in.
Today, our country is at war. It is imperative to unite to win this battle. That is why I insist on rectifying the war budget that directs expenses in the direction of the challenges we have ahead.
For more, joining me now from Haiti is Etienne Côté-Paluck. He is editor-in-chief for Haiti Magazine and Haiti Weekly. With us, too, is DeCady. He is a former executive director for the United Front of the Haitian Diaspora. With us, too, from Vancouver is Jemima Pierre. She is a professor with the Social Justice Institute at the University of British Columbia. And from New York, we are also joined by William O'Neill. He is the United Nations designated expert on human rights in Haiti. Welcome to all of you. Great to have you on the show. Etienne Côté-Paluck, let me start with you, and let's start with the latest situation on the ground. How bad is the violence right now? Are these street gangs tightening their grip?
Yes, this week again, it's the desperation that we can see on the faces of all Haitians. Only this morning, again, another town was conquered. It's the only word I can use, probably. By the armed groups. It's a town called Sodo, and the police had to flee out because they were overwhelmed by the attack. We're now getting really scared by other attacks that might be coming up north of Port-au-Prince, but still in the capital itself, where the most of the violence is happening, fewer and fewer neighbors are still free. There's attacks daily, and everybody's wondering up until what point will that go? Will it stop? What's the objectives of everybody? Like you said, there's a lot of displacement. It's now a normal day. We see people in the streets in Port-au-Prince fleeing with their luggages and everything with them, and we have the same situation right now north of Port-au-Prince. Outside of Port-au-Prince was pretty left out of the violence, most of it in the country, but now this part of the country is getting more and more violent. It's close to Port-au-Prince, but still we're really worried here of what's next and what the government can do. They have a lot of promises, like you said. There's a new presidential, the new head of the presidential transition there, and he promised more efforts, but still we don't see the police getting back to neighborhoods that they've lost.
And Etienne, what about daily life? What about things going out? Are the shops open? Can people buy food, for instance? What about public transport or access to sort of basic services?
It's complicated throughout the country. Like I said, most of the violences are in Port-au-Prince, but Port-au-Prince is at the middle of the country, and that's where lots of the economy went through before going outside of the capital. So everybody's suffering. There's 30% inflation right now in the country. It's been like that for a few years, 3 or 4 years right now. So the economy is really at its lowest. Everybody's suffering, and you cannot go inside and out of Port-au-Prince. I myself, I'm outside of Port-au-Prince right now. I wanted to go back, but I can't because all the roads are occupied by the armed groups right now. So it's really, really complicated, and every day it's getting worse.
William O'Neill, the United Nations Human Rights Chief, Volker Turk, he recently sounded the alarm over the deteriorating situation in Haiti, and he said he described it as a catastrophe. And he warned that gangs are, as we just heard, controlling wider parts of Haiti, not just the capital, Port-au-Prince. Now, you've been to Haiti. You were there just a few weeks ago. You spent time there. What is your assessment of what's going on there?
My assessment is exactly consistent with what Mr. Turk said and what Etienne just said. I was there in the first week of March, and I have never seen the situation as bad as it is now. I had to take the UN helicopter. It was the only safe way in and out of the capital from, I was in Cape Haitian. And yesterday, a government-leased helicopter was actually hit by small arms fire as it was flying over the central part of the country. So you can say even now, maybe a helicopter isn't so safe, and the city's basically cut off. The gangs control all the main roads in and out, and they are encroaching more and more into the few remaining neighborhoods in Port-au-Prince that are relatively safe. I saw this myself when my movements were very limited, and the government ministries where I used to go downtown to have meetings, they have all now moved up the hill, up towards Pétionville, and at entries to some of these neighborhoods where there's one principal street, the neighborhood committees have erected steel gate barriers that they are guarding all the time, and armed men are there, and at 6 o'clock, I'm told the gate is closed, and nobody gets in or out of that neighborhood because they're trying to keep the gangs out. So you got the feeling, I had the feeling talking to people, I could see it in their eyes, hear it in their voices. They're more and more terrified as the gangs tighten their grip, and the safe spaces, literally in Port-au-Prince, are shrinking every day.
Right, and on the question, William, on what can be done to stem this deteriorating crisis, you said recently that fixing the crisis is doable. You stressed how a well-trained and international force could achieve this. Tell us more about this proposal.
Yes, I think the three things that can be done, that should be done, that have been actually authorized to be done by the United Nations Security Council for over a year now. One is an international force currently led by Kenya that is not even at half its strength right now, and they don't have the proper vehicles. They keep breaking down. There's a lack of spare parts. They don't have helicopters to move around easily. They lack everything. Same thing for the Haitian National Police that the force is supposed to be supporting. So one step would be to fully deploy the force that is authorized with what it is needed to help the Haitian National Police, who need the help desperately. Second point is sanctions. There are rich people in Haiti, outside of Haiti, in the political class and the business class that are allied with the gangs. You have to hit them with sanctions hard so that they suffer. Freeze bank accounts, seize assets, annul visas, because this would then put a dent in the gang's power. And third would be an arms embargo. There is an arms embargo authorized, it's just not being enforced. An overwhelming amount of weapons and ammunition come from the United States. There's not a single gun or bullet made in Haiti. So literally you could disarm the gangs by depriving them of guns and weapons. And that would make the job of dismantling them faster and safer. But none of those three steps have actually fully been implemented. And that's really one of the big part of the problem, why it's reached this point and why the gangs keep gaining in strength, and why it's terrifying for the population that's caught in between.
Jemima, Pierre, of course, it's one thing to address the violence that we are seeing right now, but what about some of the root causes of what's causing this violence? The fact that the economy is in such poor shape, the fact that there has been political instability for a very long time. Don't they have to be addressed as well?
Exactly. I think it's so easy when it comes to Haiti to just list all the terrible things that are happening. You know, it's as if the violence comes from out of nowhere, that Haitian people are just violent and cannot rule themselves and need outside intervention over and over and over again. And so we have to remember, first of all, that, you know, the spiral begins with the U.S. back coup d'etat that happened in Haiti in 2004 that removed the democratically elected president. And then after that, it's been a spiral over and over again, down to after the assassination of the president in July 2021, where you have the core group, which still actually is in control of Haiti. We have to remember that there's a core group. The UN is still in charge through this BNU office. Installed basically a prime minister that continued the work of the PHTK, which has actually wreaked havoc on the country. Remember, PHTK was installed by Hillary Clinton in 2010. And so if we don't understand these political situations, the reason the armed groups, the paramilitary groups are getting stronger and stronger is because there's there's a political vacuum, and the political vacuum is also made terribly worse by the economic situation, which people talk about. But let's remember, just 3 years ago, the Haitians were protesting the fact that the IMF was forcing the removal of fuel subsidies, which raised the inflation by 30% overnight. So if you have an economic situation, people are in economically dire straits, it's easier to recruit young people into these armed groups. There's a U.S. embargo against military equipment, arms embargo against the Haitian government getting arms. And so we have to think about how this political vacuum, this unelected and illegitimate presidential council that was handpicked by the U.S. and CARICOM, all that actually works and create this vacuum. And then you add that to all these arms that are being shipped through the Dominican Republic from the U.S. You have the drug trade that's coming through Colombia, which is what the Colombian president is saying. And so these people are getting stronger and stronger. But if we don't take care of this political vacuum and keep thinking that we're bringing foreigners to come in and without, strengthening the Haitian government or the Haitian police, and still think that the thing to do over and over in Haiti is to bring armed foreigners like the Kenyans, we're not going to get to the bottom of the problem. And the first thing is the U.S. needs to stop. They can stop shipments of guns from coming into the country, and they can do that very easily. And so sometimes people wonder if if the reason is that they want to have these people removed from these prime properties in Port-au-Prince so that they can take it over, which is why everyone's concerned that maybe there's some collusion going on between, the PHTK, the former government that still seems to be in charge, the U.S. Embassy, and so on.
DeCady, firstly, let me ask you, what do you think of those proposals, some of those proposals that William O'Neill just told us about, things like imposing sanctions against Haitian elites who are financing these gangs to some extent, as well as ensuring that weapons don't get into the country?
So I do think some of what Mr. O'Neill presented here could be, at least one of it would be sanctioned to the real people that are supporting this violence. So we have to remember, we do focus a lot on the armed gangs and the guys in the street, and I don't want to cite names, but we know who they are. So we've always kind of blamed these groups, but we're not looking at who's arming them, who's the weapons that they're carrying are often, tens of thousands of dollars in their hands, where they're wearing a pair of sandals. So you these are not people. They are not the one financing this issue. So finding the right people to sanction would be one of them. I'm not for outsourcing the security of Haiti. I do think that's tried before and never worked. I think the Haitians have to do the hard work that is required to or if we're getting any help, would be to re-strengthen these institutions so they can take power. I think Professor Jemima correctly said that we have an illegitimate government in Haiti, where these guys are just playing musical chairs, and we have not seen any results from them. We've talked about whether Haiti really needs to have a national dialogue. Nobody is really working on that. That's where we need to start to solve the problem from the roots, and not try to basically create a war. A war with whom? If the president said we are at war, we are at war with exactly who are we at war with? We know there are gangs, but what are their objectives? What are we? Who are we fighting?
Etienne, looking at this rotating presidency, I mean, we've been talking about that. There's a former Haitian central banker, the bank chief actually, has taken over that rotating presidency of the Transitional Presidential Council. I mean, is he going to make a difference? And what's the outlook then for a more stable political situation?
There's been already two rotating president of the council, and we haven't seen a lot of concrete results. We're not expecting a lot from this new government, this new head of the council, sorry. And he says he's going to have a war plan. We're actually in a civil war in Haiti. We should use probably that name from right on, for now on, because it's really between Haitians that the conflict is happening. But the government itself hasn't been really able to have a plan with the police force, the security forces, so they can take back neighborhoods in Port-au-Prince and elsewhere, especially in L'Artibonite, and now, like I said, in Sodo too, since this morning. But there's no real plan, there's no real intervention that helps them take over the lost neighborhoods. Now the armed groups are really trying to take over the whole of the capital. Probably negotiation here is a bit tricky. So some are for it, some are against it, because the hatred of the armed groups is really growing throughout the country. But it's probably the only solution right now, because the force didn't work.
William O'Neill, talking about an international force to secure the country, there are already, as you pointed out, Kenyan police in the country right now. But that is not at full strength. What would a full-strength force look like, and what kind of mandate would they need to bring peace to the country?
Well, the Security Council has authorized a force of 2,500. That's a floor. It could be more. There are now about 1,100. So as you can see, it's not even half the right size. They already have a mandate. Their mandate is to support the Haitian National Police. That's the primary task. And the Haitian National Police, I've met the head of the police, the two heads that have been there since I've started this assignment as expert, and they both are begging for help. They don't pretend that they can do this alone. I'd love to see the Haitian National Police and the Haitian Army be able to handle the security challenges by themselves, but they simply are too small, too weak. They don't have the right equipment. They're losing people. They're incredibly brave and courageous. I'm not faulting them. I'm not faulting the Kenyan-led force, who also have lost at least two of their personnel who've been killed by the gang. So I think, and the Haitian gangs, as was said, are not popular. In fact, it's the opposite. The Haitian population despises them. So they have no popular support. If you were able to, again, seeing it as a whole, cut off the arms and weapons and ammunition, cut off their financial flow and support from wealthy backers, and then strategically, and I agree, there has been no plan. That's a problem. There are internal divisions. I mean, this is a big problem in Haiti. There are internal divisions within the police, between the police and the government about what to do. That's not helpful. But if they were able to have a strategy and the proper support coming from outside to help the Haitian National Police start to retake bit by bit, you don't have to get every gang all at once, but you would start maybe with the weakest, the most exposed, and have some victories. I think that people are desperate to have a victory of any kind. Then you could start to change the momentum. And then you could also get at that problem of youth, maybe not seeing gangs as their future and not wanting to join, so the recruiting could dry up. They couldn't meet their payroll. I mean, the gang members are there not for ideological reasons. It's not because there's some battle over creating a new Haiti in the image of one of these gang leaders. It's purely criminal enterprises. So if you were to show that this is not the future, that there's another opportunity for youth, the gangs would also lose their supply chain of new recruits, and that would be a mortal blow to them. So I think, again, I don't think frankly, it's not that complicated. Haiti is doable, as I've said. When I look at Congo or Gaza or Ukraine, I just throw up my hands. But on Haiti, no, this really can be achieved.
Jemima, you know, people in Haiti may despise these gangs, as William O'Neill has just pointed out. But if we look to the future, I mean, these gangs have a lot of power. They have a lot of power all over Haiti. Would any future dispensation have to include talking to them, talking to gang leaders like Jimmy Cherizier, who's known as Barbecue?
Well, at this point, I don't think people would want any negotiations with these armed groups. And I refuse to call them gangs, I have to say, because they are very armed. They're paramilitaries with you know, high caliber weapons. I do think we have to know that, we've heard that the U.S. Embassy actually negotiates with some of the gangs when they needed to get, for example, those missionaries whose bodies that they needed to get from certain neighborhoods. And so we know that there's some kind of negotiations going on, and we know that under Ariel Henry, he would negotiate with these groups in order to have passage and so on. So there has to be a few things. There have to be a few things to be done. One of them is that I do think the U.S. and the UN can actually negotiate with these groups, can actually force the end of these weapons coming into the country. They have that force. And this idea that we always need to bring thousands of foreign soldiers into our country is completely anathema to this. It's not good for the situation. What we need to do is actually strengthen the Haitian police and the Haitian military, and they're not getting that. They're just, they're waiting on, whatever, Canada and the U.S. throw their way, a truck here and a truck there, and saying that the only thing we can do is to wait for Kenyans who are paid for by the U.S. To come in. And so the solution needs to be a multi-pronged solution. It needs to be the strengthening of local institution, local police, a new political framework that's not imposed from outside in the UN, which is still in Haiti through the BNU office, and I have to say that again. And then we need to, work on the economic situation, because the removal of the fuel subsidies is still a big issue, and the IMF is still insisting on it. Giving people a reprieve, an economic reprieve, was actually stem that recruitment policy. But the U.S. can do something. They can stop the guns from coming in. The Dominican Republic just recovered last month, thousands of, ammunition, bullets, and so on. We know they're coming in, and so we can curb all that stuff coming, all the extra guns coming in, and then transfer that money and arms to the Haitian police and the Haitian government. Now the U.S. Embassy is basically asking, when the Haitian police recovers guns from these armed groups, they have to turn them into the U.S. Embassy, as opposed to keeping them for themselves for the use. So we have to really think about this. This is a problem that was created by an illegal removal of the Haitian president, the so-called international community controlling Haitian politics, and we have to deal with that in order to be able to deal with what's going on the ground and how it's gotten it, because it is under foreign occupation that these gangs have proliferated. And we have to be honest with ourselves about that, because if we don't know the core of the problem, we won't be able to fix it.
DeCady, looking at part of the humanitarian situation in Haiti right now, more than 1 million people have fled their homes. Many have fled to the neighboring Dominican Republic, but they're also facing deportation from there. So what's the latest on those who have fled?
So the immigration issue is a big issue. Haitians tend to flee to Dominican Republic, which is giving Dominican Republic issues, and they're pushing them back, and they have no place to go. Recently, under the Biden administration, there was a program, the Biden parole program. This is also being discontinued in the U.S., which will mean that some of these people will have to be repatriated to Haiti, and in a country where security is very difficult. Still today, we don't have flights going into Port-au-Prince, so only one airport is open. So that's going to be very difficult. It's good that we can see in the South, for example. I don't condone everything that this commissaire does in Miragwan, but with his actions, is at least protecting the South from this invasion of the gang. So what I see is from that example is that where there's a will, there's a way. If we actually do sit down and have a conversation and have a plan and support the institutions, give the proper weapons that the military and the police needs to do the job, with support of the international experts to tell them how to actually activate that. We need to reestablish a government in Haiti. The CPTs has failed terribly. In order for us to move the country forward, bringing hope, bringing some economic, some economic needs, so these youth can see there is something to do besides going into the gangs. As long that the situation stays the way it is, and the country stays as a porous as it is, you can go to Haiti without checking into any borders. You can actually bring your boat and just come in the country and bring anything, drugs and weapons. It's going to be difficult until we have that to do the hard work and bringing these institutions back to be able to maintain that. And it's not a small job. It is a long-term job. We should stop looking for quick fix solutions to solve the problem.
Etienne, there was a report which was published by Amnesty International. It was not so long ago. It was a very disturbing report. It focused on Haitian children, their healthcare as well as education needs. And it said that up to 1 million Haitian children are now directly under the influence of these gangs. What can you tell us about that?
It's numbers that are hard to confirm because it's mostly estimates, but the gangs are effectively controlling big parts of the capital and its suburbs. Most of the people have fled, but there's still people living there. Let's say in Cité Soleil, in the La Saline, and all the Plaine, which is the north suburb. So there's still schools working there, but in smaller numbers. Yes, they live there under their control. They cannot go against the gangs, but if they stay quiet, they kind of they leave them to be. But other youngsters are getting into the armed groups, and they get recruited, and they get, because there's a lot of money out of it, because when you do your criminal activities, you can get out a lot of money out of it. And so for people that are extremely poor, like right now, it's a way out that is easy. It's really hard to see people around me here in the country getting smaller and smaller by the months, skinnier and skinnier, because they don't eat enough, because the economy is stalling, and everything is so expensive now that they have to diminish the portions that they have to eat themselves.
Yeah. William O'Neill, I want to get your thoughts on something we talked about a moment ago, and that is this change in policy by President Trump to end the temporary protective status for Haitians living in the United States. Now, that is something that could impact up to 500,000, 500,000 Haitians who live here. I mean, how concerning is this, and what can the UN do about it?
It's extremely concerning, and I've gone on the public record several times, and I'll do it again now. I've urged the administration to reconsider its decision to shorten the period of protected status for Haitians that was originally supposed to last until next February in 2026. It's now been reduced to August, and I think that's a huge mistake for all the reasons that have been said. I was in the Cape Haitian airport. There's one flight, from Miami to Cape Haitian, one a day from all of North America. Now, so that airport is small. The facilities in the city are nowhere near the size and capacity to deal with many forced deportations. I've urged not only the United States, but the Dominican Republic, every country now, to pause any forced deportations into Haiti, given the violence and the famine and the lack of food and access to health care and clean water and everything else. You cannot, the international law requires a safe and dignified and sustainable return. None of those are guaranteed right now. In fact, the opposite.
Okay, and we have to leave it there. Thank you to all of you for being with us. And that is it for another edition of The Heat. I'm Anand Naidu in Washington.